Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Silent Hill. And,
That's not a hill, that's a staircase.
Which last we checked is not that silent.
it's a staircase built up a hill. You see? You see how that works?
Well, a staircase doesn't have to be up a hill, it can be going down a hill.
On a hill.
There you go.
It's going in both directions. It's a staircase. It's not an escalator.
Jesus Christ!
Escalators are never broken, they just temporarily become stairs.
Yeah, Awa.
That sounds like a story. Tell me the story.
No, it's just it's. Look, I understand that you may not want to take the risk if an escalator is broken, but it just becomes stairs.
Why can't we use them?
Climb stairs?
I think some places consider it a safety risk that the escalator might move unexpectedly while people are on them if it's turned off. But
Well, then it should just say escalate at your own risk.
Well, you're not escalating if it's not moving.
Says every drug dealer.
And if it moved unexpectedly, it would be moving down. That's de-escalation. Why don't they call the downward escalators de-escalators?
I think descalator sounds pretty cool. Although
And
that kind
I
of sounds
still
like
want-
your desk has become a
Become a
robot or something.
yeah, your desk has become a Terminator.
It sounds like a Star Trek villain made out of school desks. So,
Well, those school desks are a villain, especially the ones that had the bar built into the desk so that you can only get in on one side. Screw those ones, especially the lefty ones. All right.
I still wonder to this day if you fall down an up escalator, we'd be caught some sort of temporal paradox.
You just
only
fall.
if
Yeah,
you
you just
start
fall
falling
that
down
would be
forever.
like the Prince of Persia Sands of Time short animation where the prince reverses time to get out of falling, but doesn't have enough time left in his dagger to reach the top, so he just falls again.
Can't that happen in the game too?
Yeah.
If you're
If you don't time it right,
if you don't time it right,
you can get like an inch off the ground, and then your time just stop. Your time rewind just stops. He just jumps off again. It's actually a very funny occurrence when that does happen because you just kind of take the death and you laugh.
We need to do Sands of Time. That was one of the games that you tried to record like years ago, but
Yeah,
actually,
I need to do
but
it again.
the character can't stick a landing worth for shit.
Yeah,
What version were you trying to record?
that was the
back then?
PS2 version.
The PS2 version, okay.
Yeah, I
Was
think
that
you,
version known for being glitchier than the other ones?
No, I just happened to run into something.
Okay.
which is really bad luck because Prince of Persia: The Sands of Time is a linear ass game, and that makes it very predictable for game testing. So the bugs
I could probably do it now and be fine. It's just I just haven't gotten to it.
yeah, a lot of the bugs that remain in the game are going to be really rare.
How many health drinks is that? Like, how much do you have?
Way more than any man should ever drink.
Well, Harry Mason doesn't have being encumbered.
Think of it this way: how many potions are you carrying by the end of a Final Fantasy game?
Well, you can't be encumbered there either. So,
All potions.
Oh, okay. A surplus.
favorite thing in all those kind of Elder Scrollsy RPGs: carrying on 499.9 pounds of gear, jumping around just fine, pick up a 1 ounce feather. Suddenly, you can't jump.
I think my favorite though is JRPGs that limit it by types of items and not quantity of item, because you can carry 98 more Pokeballs, but one more berry is too much.
As funny as that image is, though, the Elder Scrolls games actually do tend to make those items weightless, just to avoid that problem.
I know, it's just mostly a joke, though.
Yeah. I think... When was the last time the Elder Scrolls even ascribed weight to coins?
We're crossing the town bridge. We know Bagoo.
Honestly, coins are something you should attach a weight to, though, because if you're going by that system anyway, because if you're an adventurer, you're carrying around like hundreds of thousands of coins with you at any given time. Like,
And those are
actually
heavy.
should be like...
It
Heavy.
should be really goddamn heavy,
Truckful.
yeah.
Yeah.
There are some games that older games mostly that give coins a weight, but it's also a hideously inconvenient thing to do.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I want to carry $1 million. I want to carry $1 million.
It also means that the game has to track how many of each denomination of coin you actually have, as opposed to what your total value is. And that's, well, that's annoying. So, anyway, to correct something that was said in an earlier part, I forget who it was that said it, maybe Ted. Silent Hill wasn't the Silent Hill that we run through in this game isn't just that one section. It's actually 3 large sections of town. This being the second one.
All right, that makes a little bit more sense.
There was the residential district. I think it was the residential district. Then there's the what is it called? The Old Silent Hill. And
Old Springfield and New Springfield, based on area code.
And then there's, I think this is the historic district, and then there's the resort area. The resort area you don't actually need to explore. You can actually just run straight through it to the final area of the game. But you have to explore it and complete a sort of completely obtuse optional side quest thing in order to access the good ending.
I swear to Christ, every time you kick these things, I'm thinking you're editing a squeak toy sound effect.
This is hilarious.
I can do this for... I don't know why I gave him Chris Redfield.
Guess what street we're
I can do
on?
this for days.
It's Crichton Street.
What?
Michael Crichton.
Oh, like Michael Crichton, yeah.
Oh, okay. I saw a Sagan earlier.
Carl Sagan.
Carl Sagan? Yeah.
So we're on Crichton Street. I totally did not mean to do this, but, okay. There was a frame drop as I was trying to...
What?
Wait.
I'm confused.
I'm sort of...
Mommy
just
holds-
kind of
He's
point,
dropping a frame. Huh?
What happened to
Oh,
Carl
I
Sagan?
get it. Ah.
So, as I was trying to find this pterodactyl, I dropped a pterodactyl right next to the Crichton Street sign, and then I looked at the sign and I was like...
Huh.
And it was completely for the purpose of keeping this unintentional coincidence in that I spent 2 hours trying to find an appropriate frame drop edit. So, yeah.
Crichton? It's Crichton.
Oh, Jesus. I hate these enemies. These enemies
What are
can
they?
go die in a fire. They're like, I don't know, evil demon monkeys. I never looked them up to see what fear of Alessa's they were inspired by.
Get them, my pretties.
These enemies are annoying, as you can tell by the fact that I am indeed using my gun and not my melee weapon.
I like how your train of thought is, I'm going to get attacked by the evil demon monkey. Let me check the map. Make sure I'm going the right place to go.
Does gameplay pause when you're checking the map?
Yes.
The reason that happened is because the first time I played Silent Hill 1, I actually changed the menu and map buttons around. But they don't let you do that in the sequels. So, I got used to the button layout in the sequels. And then I went back to this game, and my muscle memory was all screwed up for the menu and the map.
Oh, muscle
So-
memory's the worst when it comes to certain games.
Yeah,
if
then
any
going to
game
other
has the right face button be jump into the bottom one be attack, it's just gross.
It's like going from, on the PS2 specifically, it's like going from Devil May Cry 1 to Devil May Cry 3, because Devil May Cry 1 had jump on the triangle button, but 3 had it on the X button. And
Well, no, that was me. That was me earlier when I was playing Spider-Man on PS4. Counter is circle in that game. With all the Arkham games I've played, I am used to counter being triangle. So I spent the first about hour of the game just getting my ass kicked trying to do counter. I was like, no, it's circle, not triangle.
That's easier for me to get around because Spider-Man and Batman Arkham Asylum are so visually different games that my muscle memory isn't quite as ingrained for Spider-Man yet. So I can get used to that fairly quickly. But if you
Well,
were
no,
to do
I
that,
got used to it. It's just I played so much Arkham. It's like
Because the game is so heavily inspired from the Arkham series, you're expecting it to be one-to-one Arkham.
Yeah, it's because my my muscle memory when it comes to gaming is based on what I'm seeing while I play. If the game is visually similar, I'm going to instinctively think that the controls are similar too. So I have trouble when control changes within the same series, not so much between two different games that look different and flow different. Speaking of the Spider-Man PS4 game, I am so glad I finally got that game. What a ride.
I'm waiting because it'll be $30 cheaper within like 4
After
months.
the holidays, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, basically.
Yeah, I kind of want to pay full price for games that I fully support, though.
Yeah, I do too, but I only have so much money. So
Yeah.
The police station really only exists to give you an extra save point and to have a few items in it, and to have a few readable documents here and there.
This is how you do it, Raccoon City.
That hint at the weirdest sort of peripheral subplot. There's a drug trafficking ring in Silent Hill that is run by the cult, or it is run by a man named Kaufman on behalf of the cult.
So if you do drugs in Silent Hill, does it look normal to you?
Well, it's a hallucinatory drug, but I'm not really sure what kind of symptoms it does. The White Claudia drug is only very vaguely explained, and
So you become a pyro in Two Fort.
its only real significance is that it explains why Sybil Bennett is in town, because she came to the town to get in contact with the local police branch, who dropped out of contact because they were cooperating on the White Claudia case. And it also explains Coughman, who is a man we won't be meeting until we get to the hospital, and Lisa, the nurse, who you can see off to the side in the sidebar there. She was coerced into taking care of Alessa in the hospital basement, and was held there by her addiction to the drug. All of this you don't really find out about until you get to Lisa's heart-rending death scene at the end of the game.
Isn't Lisa your wife though, and that's why you're here in the first place?
No.
Oh, okay.
But the long story short, the moral of the story is drugs are bad, okay?
Yeah, well, Lisa Garland, who, as it happens, was named in honor of the actress from The Wizard of Oz. See, that tangent wasn't completely off topic. Lisa Garland, she's how do I put this? She has this really weird death scene at the end, which for most players, I imagine, was completely out of left field and went completely unexplained. In order to find out what is up with this girl, you need to do two really obtuse things. The first is walk your ass straight back through the door that Lisa Garland just chased you through. When you do, you'll find that she's disappeared for no reason and left her diary behind, which fills in some of the puzzle pieces. In the hospital, though, you find a videotape, and if you play it on a VCR in the hospital, it's a garbled mess that doesn't tell you anything. If you hold on to it and play it in a VCR in the final level of the game, you get the full video, which is vague but clear enough that you can put the pieces together with the other information you have about Lisa and figure out what her significance to the plot is. This is the kind of storytelling Silent Hill 1 has. You have to figure things out yourself. It's that kind of, I don't know, Dark Souls before Dark Souls kind of storytelling, you know? Where it's all kind of vague and desolate, and you don't necessarily know what's going on, but there's enough information there that you can kind of sort of maybe figure it out, but you're never completely sure you have it.
Honestly, that kind of storytelling works best in horror.
So what you're saying is Silent Hill is the Dark Souls of Resident Evil games.
It
right?
is. It is exactly that. Thank you.
Yeah, I was gonna say you're not completely wrong there.
You see, I know that this isn't the game's fault, but Dark Souls has made me never want to play Dark Souls, if that makes sense. Because it's like, oh, geez. You know, it's just one of those things where I know I'm being a petty asshole.
It gets too aggravating for its own good. Just outside of it.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm not really into those kinds of games anyway, but it's just one of those things where after a certain point, if enough people say that you should play such and such a game, it makes me want to play it less, which I know is dumb
Yeah.
on my on my end, but
Yeah,
you
I know. Which all right. So with that logic, you guys never played Dragon Quest XI. You hear me?
I'll buy 20 right now.
That effect though, you get that with a lot of people with a lot of the most popular games. If I had a nickel for every time someone said that about Final Fantasy VII or Undertale.
Yeah,
Or-
Undertale was the other one I was thinking too, because it's you get tired of people talking about
The greatest thing ever. The greatest thing ever.
Which is a shame because in a lot of these cases, and I know that I'm guilty of this myself, it ends up making the games don't end up getting the appreciation they really deserve because it feels like they get overhyped for a really long time, and then suddenly it seems just like everybody hates it now for some reason, you know? So I know it's not fair.
The people who were disappointed get very vocal about it for a very long time, and you get this this really persistent and very very visible element of the gaming crowd who intensely dislikes the thing. Final Fantasy VII, for example, you get a lot of people.
Ocarina of Time.
Ocarina of Time.
Ocarina of Time,
to a
I would say,
lesser
is a little
extent,
bit
I'd
less
say.
so than Final Fantasy VII. Like, Final Fantasy VII gets that a lot.
Well, most people will acknowledge at least that Ocarina of Time was important to gaming history because it defined a lot of staples of 3D game design that persists somewhat to this day, even. But for Final Fantasy VII, people do have the excuse that it's really just a 3D version of what was arguably done better in 2D before that. So they'll
Still good enough to leave.
It
a
left its
lasting
mark
impact on
and it
gameplay,
inspired a lot
yeah.
of people. But
Because I
there's-
agree that Seven's biggest impact is that it made RPGs mainstream. It not necessarily because of its game, but it just because of what it did.
It just happened to be there at the right time. That's all it did.
Yeah, and people will at best devalue that, and at worst call it a bad thing.
Well, I mean, not really. I wouldn't say it's a bad thing. It's just a thing.
I'm not saying I agree. I'm just saying that's people will say that because in a lot of people's minds, mainstream is evil. You know.
Yes, let's make our games harder for people to get into. That makes them better.
No, but Ted, that's how we know the fan base is small and dedicated.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, Ted, you should know. You're the Dragon Quest guy.
Well, Dragon Quest was made. Well, you see, that comparison doesn't necessarily work because Dragon Quest was made to be accessible from the beginning. Like actually, you see, we were talking about Dark Souls. Dragon Quest was Dark Souls before Dark Souls.
I was gonna say, designed to be accessible. Have you played? It's like I know you have, Ted, but it's like, have you played Dragon Warrior / Dragon Quest 1? That thing is not accessible in the slightest.
Well, here's the thing. It was designed that anybody could play it. In that it's not reaction based. You don't have to be skilled in, pressing buttons really quickly in order to play it. So your grandpa could play it, a 4-year-old could play it. And also, in the first game, and this has continued along ever since, when you die, you don't get a game over. You get to keep all the experience and stuff you found. You just lose half your money, which is a precursor to sort of the kind of stuff that Dark Souls would end up doing way later on. So yeah, Dark Souls is the Dragon Quest of action RPGs. I don't think that sounds as good. Never mind. But
Dark Quest.
Yeah, Dark Quest, exactly.
A slime draws near. Oh god, it's terrifying.
Okay, you say that, but there is a game called Dark Quest, and it's not remotely like either. It's an indie game. I think
Questing in the dark.
It's an indie game that I think is inspired by the old board game.
Wait a minute. No, Dragon
Hero
Quest has worked with this before. We call it Dark Warrior instead.
Hold on. I think there's a Dark Warrior. Hold on.
Damn it!
Questing with dragons in the dark.
Have any of you guys played the board game Hero Quest?
I've heard about
know
it
of it, but no.
because
I've heard of Hero Quest,
the board James did a James.
Yeah, he
had a
did.
video
Although
on
he
it.
didn't really go into it, he just talked about how hard it was to set up, which is kind of doing the game a disservice because it's pretty simple actually. It's basically Dungeons and Dragons light. in a pretty limited board game format where your quests are all just dungeons, and they're limited to what kind of maps you can construct on a specific board. It's a pretty good game actually, and I think there are games like it that are more modern, like maybe what is it called, Descent has some elements of that going on. But don't try to find Hero Quest now. It's like $300 goddamn dollars.
That's board games are something that I wish I could play more, but trying to get people to play a board game is impossible.
It requires too many people to play. It takes up a lot of space.
Not to mention that good luck trying to get like your family to play one of the board games that you actually want to play, as opposed to like Monopoly.
Mousetrap.
I understand that's a joke. I still had fun playing Monopoly with those.
Well, no, I mean Monopoly is fun in the same way Mario Party is fun. Don't get me wrong.
Okay. I don't ever want to see a game of Mousetrap again. I get enough of that shit at work.
You actually played Mousetrap?
Yeah,
we
the
had
never
Mousetrap.
works.
Yeah, the trap never works.
No, I thought building the trap was the game.
I mean, that's partially, but then you don't even bother playing the game because there's no point. You just want to see the thing work, and it never
because
does.
the actual trap is just, the actual game is just you roll a die
and then you move
forward until there's literally no strategy to any of it. You're supposed to like build the trap as you play, but nobody does that because.
Well, it was a game for little kids, so
Yeah, I mean, yeah, granted. The game was the gimmick, although a lot of board games have that. I don't know how much.
The Game of Life.
Oh, the Game of Life.
Have you ever played the Game of Life?
Yeah.
That was actually one we
Virtually,
played a lot growing up. And
it's one of those old board games that's really worth playing in physical board game form because the actual board game itself is a pretty impressive piece
the wheel
of merchandise.
The wheel is actually really satisfying to spin.
Oh yeah, it's got that nice click sound.
Yeah, it's a really nice, like, intricate plastic sloping board with like multiple pathways all over the place. I love that shit. Yeah, I wouldn't even buy it to play it. I'd buy it just to set it up on a desk somewhere and have it on display. Anyway, we are in the hospital, which is the second of the two major big levels before the game's design completely falls apart in the second half. And
boy, I love when games do that.
This is Kaufman. Hi, Kaufman.
Timing.
I'm leaving that in.
Fuck you.
Don't shoot.
Oh, I get it, because it's Kaufman and John coughed. Okay. All right, sorry. That took me a moment.
His name is Kaufman, and he works at the hospital.
I thought he worked for Kaufman Tire.
Thank God.
He's the hospital director. And his name is Kaufman. You get it? Kaufman?
You got sick.
I'm Dr.
Yeah, I was gonna say it sounds like a Mega Man villain.
Well, Kaufman's kind of a non-character in this game, to be honest. He appears a few times, says a few things, and you get a vague sense of where he fits into the cult, but he doesn't really do a whole lot. The most significant impact he has is not really even on screen. He's the guy who was, who had Lisa Garland addicted to the drugs, and that's the reason why during the good endings he gets dragged into hell by Lisa Garland's corrupted Silent Hill monster self. So he gets his comeuppance there. You don't find out much about Kaufman himself outside of maybe Silent Hill Origins. And the only thing I can remember from Silent Hill Origins is more relevant to Lisa Garland's character. She was sleeping with Kaufman, her boss, and you also find out in that game that she actually wanted to be an actress but was pressured by her family into following the path of medicine. Which, I actually do like that particular bit. It
Could have had it both
more.
ways. Could have acted as a nurse.
Could have acted as a nurse.
I'm not an actor. I just play one in the emergency room.
That's one of the threads of Silent Hill Origins story that I actually quite like, because it does lend a little bit of tragedy to Lisa Garland's otherwise kind of anonymous character, where you kind of see the path that led her to where she was, and unfortunately, being a drug addicted nurse who was sleeping with her boss might have at least been just kind of a shitty way to live in any other town, but in Silent Hill it was a death sentence.
I think Lisa Garland was in the reimagining Shattered Memories. I don't remember what they did with her character, though.
There was something with her in there, but I forget. Lisa Garland and Sybil Bennett, I think, both had their own different characters there, but completely different characters, completely different world.
Shattered Memories is the one that gives you the personality test before you play, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the
Yeah.
one on the Wii.
It's way more psychological.
Yeah.
Does that game have multiple? Well, I know every Silent Hill game has multiple endings, but does that one have drastically different stories for its endings, or am I?
I don't. I know. I think I know it has multiple endings. I'm not sure how it affects the story as you go.
Okay, sorry. I just for some reason I feel like I remember the game like having multiple endings, but like with drastically different outcomes. But I don't know anything.
Yeah,
about
instead of the dog ending, you get the cat ending.
Oh, okay. Yeah, she's the nurse that ODs in Shattered Memories. Okay.
Oh, so they just made it. They just made it funny. Okay, they made it funny.
Well,
they made a joke.
It's like you get her medicine and then she starts like bleeding all over the place. Like she gets her head. starts
yeah,
bleeding
they made a
profusely
really
and all sorts of
macabre
things.
joke about the canon Lisa Garland.
Oh, okay.
Of course, the because bleeding all over the place is kind of how Lisa Garland goes too, although it's a much more supernatural occurrence in this game. What was I gonna say? I lost my thought. Where did I drop
much
it?
of that
Is it
Burger
under the
King.
desk? I think I dropped my thought under the desk.
We'll pick it up.
She Lisa Garland's movie version. That's what I was gonna say. Her movie version is basically I don't know why she was even there because she appears for like 0.2 seconds in a flashback.
fan service.
Hi, I'm Lisa Garland.
Goodbye.
Walks off screen.
It's a blink and you'll miss it thing, but yeah, she's there in a flashback for about 2 seconds, and yeah,